in. Lindsay is here to answer questions and man the cameras and do all the stuff to make everything run smoothly. Let us know where you're coming from.
And we're a little early today because we got some bad weather coming in.
That kind of is a factor in when the lives will be. So if you're wondering why we kind of jump around, I think the last time there was a big storm coming in and we had to go in the AM. So if you miss it, you can always watch the rerun on Facebook or on our YouTube channel, Create with Chris, Comfort Distributing.
So we have Dawn joining us from Indiana.
Hi, Dawn.
And Patricia from California.
Wow. Hello and welcome.
Debbie from OKC.
Wow. I mean, we're going right across.
I just told your order, Debbie.
It'll be coming soon. We had a big sale over the weekend, so the girls have been really, really busy.
And Joe just joined us from Alabama.
Hi, Joe.
Linda is here from Ramona, California.
A lot of California girls today. So, well, while we're waiting for more to join on, I'm going to be teaching a technique today that I created an ornament for the Hocus Pocus series. If you're not familiar with that, I did 13 days of Hocus Pocus. It's kind of it ended up being a very delightful journey for me because I was able to create all Halloween, and I love Halloween. So it was just like boom, 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 boom. But there's 13 different ornaments. They're sold individually, or you can get the set. And I think the set is at a discount. If you get all 13.
An extra 10% off, I think.
So you get a deal. Yeah.
Basically, you get one. I think it ends up being like, if you buy the bundle, one of them's free is what the pricing works out to.
Okay. And each pattern comes with the wood surface. So, that makes it kind of a sweet deal. You don't have to order the pattern and order the wood. It's all together. So this was a series that I did. Just had a great time. And I still really like every one of the ornaments. But the one I'm doing today is the mummy technique from Monster Load.
Monsters on the Loose.
Monsters on the Loose. We kind of played around with the title. And
Monsters on the Loose.
Monsters on the Loose. So it's just a super fun technique. It's amazingly simple. And I think you're going to really love. And you will be surprised at how easy it is. And I know I say that a lot of times. Oh, this is so simple. And, when you hear that and then you get ready to try it and you're going, yeah, right. Well, I think today you're going to agree this is really simple.
Dawn said she is painting the snowman box today.
Oh, have fun. Well, we're going to go to Halloween and then you can jump back to snow.
And Patrice has just joined us from California. All the West Coasters are up.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Welcome. So what time is it in California? It's probably about 9.
9:45.
Okay.
I would think. Maybe 3 hours.
3 hours difference.
Yeah.
So,
all right, let's flip the camera.
Okay. If you have any questions while we're doing this, just put them in the comment line and Lindsay will address them. And a lot of times it's kind of nice because something I may skip over, then we can go back and really hone in on. But this is my monster. Can I zoom in a little bit, Lindsay? There
you go.
Okay, so we'll put him over there. So when I did this design, I had so much fun. This was a truck that I designed for Christmas, and I think Frankie was a little snowman. That his top of his head was a snowman top hat, and a lot of different things. And so I was trying to design something to fit on this piece, and when I was thinking of designs, that little top hat section on the truck just reminded me of Frankenstein's forehead. So, that just was a given. And then I designed around it. But as I was designing everything, I wasn't sure what to put in the cargo area of the truck. And I was going to pile a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns in there, but kind of was wanting to do something a little bit different. And I think jack-o'-lanterns sometimes are a little bit overdone. So I thought it would be fun to add a mummy, but honestly, I was a little bit intimidated because I wanted it to be really cool because I thought the rest of it was turning out well. So this was a trial for me on creating a mummy. And I impressed myself at how easy it was. So I wanted to share with you today. And one thing I love about Halloween and creating for Halloween, especially something like a mummy, there's no, it can be messy, it can be imperfect, and that just adds to the charm. So keep that in mind, because it's just a process of building and layering. We're not using a lot of different colors. This is pretty monochromatic, but we're going to add some surprise colors in there just to kind of pop it a little bit and ramp it up. And we're going to be pulling colors from the other areas of the design to enhance the mummy. So keep that in mind, because these accent colors, I guess is what we could call them, they can be changed according to the design. So I did start out with just a plain background, and I went ahead and traced the mummy on. Can you see that, Lindsay? It's not very.
Yes, you can.
Oh, perfect. And if you look at the mummy outline, it's just a people outline. It's not anything special. So I drew the head, I drew the shoulders, and that triangle thing for the chest area, added the leg, and then I put the other leg up. So it's just a very simple, basic people shape. And I wanted to keep that just like that. So it's not involved as far as the design goes. So if you want to change the positioning of the mummy, you want him sitting in a chair, you want him standing up, you just need a simple people shape. And then we're just going to wrap it up in gauze. So it's super simple. Using a little bit of raw umber. This, again, is cobblestone. I used, on this background, I used the folk art chalk paint. I absolutely love that. It goes on so opaquely, and I've been playing around with it a little bit more. I really love the coverage, and if you lightly sand it, it's almost like silk. It's just a beautiful surface to work with. So I am working with raw umber. You can use any dark colored paint, asphaltum. Burnt umber is a little bit, I don't want to say too clean of a brown, but you can see this is kind of a dirty brown. It probably leans more, brown's made up of red and green. This leans a little bit more towards the green than the red, and it just makes it a little dirtier. Earthier, is that a better word? Earthier. So I have loaded my number 5 radical round, and this is a little brush I designed. It's got like a fat belly on it and a nice point. And you can see how thin down my paint is. I don't want it heavy. I want to see my strokes and my lines. And don't let this freak you out, but this is just a real simple first layer of paint. And I'm going to start with the head. I don't know if we can get this little guy on here or not. We got him on there too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we've got the little head wrapped like this. And we're going to just wrap his little face up just like that. And we've got his little chest area here. And I'm just doing strokes. And my paint is not solid, so I'm going to be able to see the strokes on it. And on his arms, I'm trying to think about how it's not a normal thing that we do, but if you were to wrap a mummy up, a body up, how you would wrap the arms.
How you would do it if you were an Egyptian.
Yeah, if you were in that field. And so I'm just going to wrap his little arms and his hand, kind of following the contour of each body shape. When we get to this little part where it turns, I'm just going to make that a little bit thicker. This light's kind of bleaching out my vision here. Okay, so we've got, and you can see the edges aren't real straight. I'm not worried about that right now. I'm just putting on, this is the first go around of the wrap. So I've got a little bit more of the torso here. And then we're going to kind of start with the leg. And I'm just putting those in there. And we're going around the knee. And we've got one down here on the ankle and then just around the foot. Okay. This is just the very first layer. Now, when you think about how a mummy is wrapped, it's not one layer of wrapping. There's like multiple layers of wrap on this little guy. So let me give that a quick dry. This is a very light wash. Just to get, for me, it was just mostly to get the shape and the contour of each of the sections. Again, I'm not worried about filling in those spaces or making sure everything's covered well. Actually, the background that shows through when we start layering on the different levels of gauze, start wrapping it, they're going to look like multiple layers. So let's just go back and kind of add a few more. Now, when I'm going in with this next layer of color, I can just kind of, you can see it makes it a little bit darker. That's adding another layer of wrap on there. I'm not doing short strokes because these wrap around the body. So I want to make sure that we're wrapping the body. I want my pieces of gauze to be pretty consistent in the overall size. Okay. Can you see how just even at this point, it's really starting to build that contour of the body?
Linda asked, who was your model for the mummy?
I had to wrap John up.
Oh. Lots of toilet paper was used.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Actually, remember we did wrap Jen up as a mummy once.
We did. These girls do some crazy things. I did Google mummies to see if I needed anything special.
So was there a mummy posed like that?
No, there was not. I just looked.
I mean, they're usually in the same position, like stick straight.
All of my Halloween characters are pretty kind of low-keyed and happy and easygoing. And
he's laid back and relaxing.
He's chilling
on the front of the bumper.
Okay, so now we have our background in there. And before I put on the top layers, I wanted to get his eyes in there so I know how to wrap his little head up. So I'm just going to get a bit of foliage green. I just like to use the handle end of my brush. And I'm using my Epic script liner. You can see I use it often. And I'm just going to dip. And the eyes are pretty much right in the middle of the face. Dip and dot. Okay, I didn't do anything too particularly crazy with the eyes.
It's creepy.
Yeah, he does. What I'm doing now, you know how you get that dome shape with your, when you dip dot? I'm just going in with my clean brush handle, pulling out that excess paint. It's going to reduce that dome. It's going to make the eyes nice and flat. It's going to dry much more quickly. And I'm not going to have that dome shape on there. Get that a little quick dry. And because I've taken that excess out, it will dry much quicker than if I had left that in there. And even though this is not a big part of the overall, his eyes are relatively insignificant, but I like to put a lot of glow in the eyes. So I'm just going to go in with a touch of plantation pine. I just think everybody looks at the eyes. Just add a little bit of shading in there. Kind of soften that down. I'm using my 1/8 inch angle. And she'll let it dry just a little bit more. It's still a little bit wet here. We can work with that. And then I'm just going to get a touch of soft black and dip dot the pupil. Or you can use lamp black or even the charcoal or the raw umber. I just think the eyes need to be a little more piercing. You get a stylus with just the right size dot on it.
I mean, after all, that's all you can see of him.
Right. And he's going to look right at you. So. And I wanted the pupil to be pretty big because he's really looking. And I'm just going to do the same thing, lift a little bit of that black paint out of there. Just for the sake, I wanted that to dry rather quickly. And I am using the heated tool. If you haven't used this before, I'm telling you, this is a must-have. Not only does it dry very quickly, very efficiently, but it's quiet. Somebody told me last week that the reason women lose their hearing is because we do our hair with a hair dryer every day, and you got that, have that in your ears.
That would make sense.
Well, if you use that every day for your hair and you use it every day when you paint, you've got constantly. So
that and the loud music.
Yeah,
I listen to, but I mean, that would make sense.
No,
though. I do dry my hair frequently.
Yeah,
so.
I hadn't thought about that, but I thought, well, we don't even think about a hair dryer making noise or being noisy. All right.
But so you can't use that one. Just a note, you cannot use this one on your hair.
Oh, it's super
hot. It will burn you.
Yeah.
So don't do that. It is nice and quiet, but don't use it on your head.
And you do have to constantly move it.
It will, if you set it down on plastic, it will melt plastic. That's how hot this thing gets.
Or if you bump it on your leg, it will burn.
It will burn your leg, yes.
Yeah. Okay, this is bleached sand. This is kind of a dirty white, and a mummy has been around for a while, so these little gauze coverings are not going to be pristine. Let me see if I can move this over a little bit. Okay. It just, that's really needs shaken up. All right. I have enough paint to wrap 3 mummies, but this will get us through.
Sandy said this is the cutest mummy.
Okay. I'm telling you, I was worried about him, but I was excited. You get excited when you paint something that turns out kind of cool and you're going, whoa, that's all right. Thank you. This is a number 2. It's my Fabulous Flat. It's a new brush that I came out with. You can see that the bristles are a little bit longer, quite a bit longer than a regular flat. Has a nice sharp chisel end on it. And with this extra length, you can maintain a very consistent long stroke for a longer time. With a longer bristle, you get a longer stroke. So it makes sense. To do the gauze, this is the width of the gauze. I'm going to move this out of the way so I can kind of turn him a little bit. I started at his head and just went down his body. I'll put this here so you can see it as well. There is no right or wrong way to do this. And I'm going to layer on a couple layers of gauze bandages to wrap him up. So I can, for example, on this outer edge that looks kind of rough and uneven, even though I don't want it perfectly smooth, I can clean it up quite a bit. There's a difference between wrapping a mummy loosely and wrapping a mummy carefully and then just having a messy mummy. So what we're going to do, and this is kind of a dry brush. I'm not going to be doing perfect strokes. I want my brush just to kind of see how that drags across. So I can load that up there. I think I need just a little more paint than that. But this flat of the chisel edge of the brush, makes a really nice starting point. I'm going to put just a little more moisture in my brush. I want my paint to be able to slide on, not heavily. And we'll put just a little bit down across beside his eye. And I can take this and wrap it up there. Just kind of getting the way that I want the bandages to kind of float on here or stroke them on here. See, just like that, he's got it pretty much covered up here. And then I'll start on his chest.
Linda said, you seem to be an expert at wrapping bodies.
Shh, don't tell him. I did a lot of research.
Well, I mean, you did have to bandage Papa John.
Yeah, my husband has had his share of wrappings, I'm telling you.
I mean, when he had his shoulder surgery, you had to wrap him right. So,
yeah.
Yeah. She's getting pretty good at it. Side job, she said.
No, thank you.
Body wrapper, is that what you would call it?
But look how he's starting to come together already. I'm just kind of more careful where I place the strokes so that I can make his hand kind of twist and turn. I'm going to turn it just a little bit more.
Lois just joined us from Bear, Delaware. I always have to say that because it rhymes. Bear, Delaware.
Bear, Delaware.
Welcome.
Hi, Lois.
And we have Corinna from Nova Scotia. I can never say it. Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia. I love Nova Scotia.
Suzanne from Idaho. Lori is here. Jackie just joined us from the Blazing Inferno, Arizona.
Well, you may need to wrap a mummy, huh? Arizona. Yeah, I heard it's hot out there. What is the temperature?
It's a dry heat, though.
Oh, yeah, right. Hot.
That's what everyone says. It's a dry heat.
Hot is hot. All right. See, it's starting to look pretty good already. I'm going to put one right here because he looks like he's got a half an arm. All right. This is looking pretty 3D, huh, Lindsay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you probably remember this, but when you brought this in, I said this looked like it took forever.
She did say that.
I did say that. I'm like, and she told me how she did it, and I didn't believe her because it looked like it took forever to do all these little wrappings or bandages or whatever you want to call them.
Are you changing your mind?
I mean, I'm not going to attempt it anytime soon because I'm semi-pro right now, but I'm saying it doesn't look as hard as I thought it did.
Yeah. My lines are getting a little bit too dry, so I just picked up a touch more paint. Keep in mind, this is still on the beginning of wrapping him up. So we have quite a bit more.
Well, and some of the linens are going to look dirty because he's thousands of years old.
That's right.
Right?
We don't want him clean and tidy.
Suzanne says, where you start, then drag looks like you almost have a natural highlight.
It does, and it almost looks like that gauze effect.
And it might look like it's holy because, holy as in worn down, not holy as in the other holy. But because, if you've ever seen a mummy, they're never complete. They're always worn. They've got holes in them, all the bandages, they're torn.
And I wanted him to look like that. I wanted him to look like he's just been around for quite a while. I painted this. When did I paint this? It's been a while.
Been a few months.
Yeah. So last night I went home and I painted one just to make sure I remembered how I did it and to make sure that it was as easy as I thought it was. I told Lindsay, I said, this is the one I painted last night. Honest to goodness, it took me about 15 to 20 minutes. So I said, with a little bit of talking, it'll take a bit more, but. Oh, see, he's looking pretty cool. So we've got the first layer of wrap on there, and I did just do that straight line just for placement so that you could see where he is kind of positioned. It makes it a little bit easier. Now I'm going to switch over. I want to brighten him up just a little bit. And I'm getting Snow White, and we're just going to repeat that same process. And this is like the wow. It's like, oh, wow, that makes a big difference. And Snow White is going to go on much brighter than it will dry. So I can highlight across his forehead. A little bit there. And see how that really bumps up the shape of his little head. I want his chin to be like right there. We'll do his little hand. I'm thinking the light's just kind of coming down from up above. So these little areas in here are just going to have little pops of highlights. Kind of. See how he's starting to round out? I want his chest to be very barrel shaped. So I'm just going to really enhance that white in there to make that pop out. Shoulder, kind of round that down a little bit. Bring his little elbow up. Now that we've rounded around his arm, I can start just highlighting this hand area. And kind of step back from it and squint at it to see. You don't want your highlights so equally the same because there's some areas that are brighter than others because they're piled higher than the others. I guess that makes sense. But look how that makes his leg really stand up there. Just going to do this little. And I still am not putting paint on heavily. My motto, a little bit of paint makes a big difference. I would rather go back and do a couple layers as opposed to one heavy layer. The results are so much more incredible. And we'll just put some down his little leg here. I thought it would be fun. I probably should do that as well. I thought it would be fun to have a little bit of a piece of gauze kind of coming off the leg. So I just picked one of these and I'm going to just do like a little loose piece of gauze sticking out there. And we'll go back and kind of tend to that here in a little bit. So I've got some of the highlights on there. I'm just going to go back now and brighten them up even more. And I always think, oh, it looks pretty good. But then you do this. You go, oh, yeah.
That's a number 2 flat. Correct?
Number 2 flat. It's perfect for this size mummy. So if you're doing a bigger mummy, bump up your brush to the appropriate size because all it takes is a little stroke here and there. And that's the size of the gauze bandage.
So far you've used a number 5 radical round to lay out the base and the number 2 flat.
Correct. And now I'm just brightening up some of those highlights. And you can see what a difference. Every time I put a layer on, I think, what a difference. There's going to be some shading in there, but I still want to ramp up his hand. No matter what part of the mummy it is, the light that's hitting it is still the same intensity. So even though I'm not doing all around with this highlight, I still want to have that same brightness. And you can see what a difference. Just a little touch. It's kind of cool. I'll put a little bit on that. It's hanging out there. And if it's kind of ratty, that's okay. And I'm going to be a little more careful on this foot because it's starting to be. I don't want it to be too much of a bump. I want it to really look like a foot shape. Okay. I'm going to let that settle for a bit. Actually, I'm going to go in with, well, my white is still nice and fresh. Put a little sparkle in that eye. Oh, yeah. Let's give it a quick dry. We've added our highlights. We've added, the shading was probably the first thing we put on with that raw umber. So now I'm going to age him just a little bit. And I'm using my 1/4 inch angle and plantation pine. And I'm just going to get the toe of my brush with just a little hint of that plantation pine. I love plantation pine because it also, actually, I'm going to go back to my number 2 flat. It's also, plantation pine is pretty thin. Let's do this. It's pretty translucent. So when you thin it down, it's almost transparent. And this is exactly what we want. It's going to give him that kind of a mossy, little bit
moldy.
Yeah, he's been in that crypt, all year long except for Halloween. So I'm not adding this everywhere because if it's everywhere, it loses that impact. But in some of these shaded areas, can you see that hint of green? Isn't that gorgeous? I just love that. Back here where his knee bends, I'm thinking that's going to get a little bit moist. Right? I mean, you have to think about these things when you're creating.
If he's sweating.
Yeah, his feet are going to be kind of walking through the muck and stuff. So, okay, and I'll put just a little bit under his armpit.
Because he's not wearing deodorant,
Okay, so we've got a little green on there, and that's such a cool color. All right, so on here, I pulled green in because of Frankie's face and the green, so I'm balancing the green. This is where I'm saying if you have these colors don't work with whatever your mummy's associating with, you can change those easily enough. This is Cherry Merlot, and this is one of Decor's new colors. I did use that in the vampire, so I thought I would bounce some of that color off of the mummy, and this just adds that kind of unexpected. We laugh because every time we do a live, somebody mows grass outside. So it won't be long here. Okay. So I'm just bouncing just a tad of that Cherry Merlot. This is kind of can be an overpowering color, so you just want a hint here and there. Just a few little places. And I kind of doing that more in some of the highlighted areas because we've got a lot going on with the shading. think that's about enough. We'll put a little bit down here just to kind of add some more color. And maybe right here. All right, now I'm going to give that a quick dry. I should, while I'm at it. Could put some green down here on that little wrap that's hanging off the edge. He's coming loose. Next year he'll probably have half his leg unwrapped.
You should do another one next year, and he's like, his leg is like just a bone, but he's partially wrapped still.
Oh, that would be cute.
Yeah.
Well, cutely morbid. See, your mind goes strange places when you work with stuff like this. I'm getting some of that raw umber on my 1/4 inch angle. And I'm going to thin it way down because this is a very strong color. And I would rather put on a couple very light coats as opposed to one heavy coat that's too overpowering. Just going to go in over all that shading and shade the head. What this does, because it's so thin, it's just going to build on those colors underneath. That green's just going to become a little bit mossier and a little bit earthier on the hand. And this is why I wasn't worried about shaping the outer edge. When I put that shading on there, it just pulls those edges in there, cleans them all up. In this area down here, I'm just going to make that a little darker. If there's any of the wraps that are too solid, and I'll do that over here where they're too tight and they look like a lump instead of individual pieces, I can just go in and I will make sure you get enough water on there that you can float that smoothly. I will go in and separate those out just a little bit more. And we'll put a little shading down in there. But look at the difference just a hint of shading does to that mummy, just to create that very soft division. And it doesn't take much. On here, I'm just going to go underneath that arm because there will be a shadow there. And we can float across the bottom. Where I've said these are just a little bit too, I'm taking the toe of my brush, just going to pull down between those a little bit. Just separate them out just like that. So simple. And across that heel. The heel was kind of open, but when I shade around it, I can create that heel shape, kind of clean it up, gives a little ankle, go down to the heel, across the bottom of his foot. This little bandage that's hanging loose, I'm gonna put a little bit of that raw umber on there, and then just for fun, I'll take a little bit of that Snow White. And this is kind of frayed out. So we can create that look that he's starting to unwrap and frazzle just a bit. I'm going to take another look at it and go back with a touch of Snow White. Once it dries, it does tone down considerably. So if I go back in and ramp it up just a little bit more. I'm just going to brighten up certain areas that I really think need to stand out. And anywhere you brighten, that's going to stand out. I'm not real crazy. This is such a straight line here. So I'm just going to go in and create more of a uneven line where his thigh kind of goes up a little. So even after you get to this point, you can go back and reshape if some of these areas are not standing out or are too blended in. And I'm staying on the flat of my brush. I'm not laying it down. I'm staying on the chisel edge. Every time I load my brush, I make sure that I have a nice sharp chisel, and then when I start at the edge and pull it, I'm getting that nice strong edge and a nice stroke. Oh, he's so cool. I never thought I would have fun painting a mummy, but I thought he was just really. Want his little face to shine more. Okay, what do you think, Lindsay?
Looks like a moldy mummy.
Moldy mummy. I'm just.
File that away for a pattern. Moldy mummy.
Moldy mummy. That's a future pattern. You can play around with it. You can go back and add a little bit of shading here and there. I had him hold a candy corn. He was trying to decide what he was going to hold, but ended up with a candy corn, which brought some more color down in here. Super easy to do, and I think you have to agree this is not complicated. He turned out pretty cool, and it doesn't take a ton of time. And I think what's so much fun about it is the fact that I'm going to put a little shading under that. The fact that it is a mummy and you don't have to worry about it being perfect. If he's a little lumpy and his wrapping is coming loose a little bit, that's okay. I think I will add just a hint of darkness around his eyes. That way. Oh, see what that does? It just really sets that eye down in there. And I want to make sure that eye is not bulging out of the wraps. It's kind of down in there. So I'm just going to do a little bit of shading around it. And each one will be different. So you kind of have to look for things that are going to see how that pushes that down in there. Different things that just need tweaked a bit here or there. Such a fun technique. Any questions, Lindsay?
No.
So how long did it take to paint the mummy?
Well, just about 35 minutes.
Okay.
But
we did a lot of talking.
yes.
So I hope that you will give this a try. It's a super easy technique. And I'm trying to think of different ways that I could use this same technique for other than a mummy, just adding the layers on. I think that it would be, it could be incorporated into other areas. So if you think of something that you use it for, let me know. And if you do decide to paint the mummy, send us a picture because we love to see what you do.
Yeah, you can always send pictures to my email, info@cdwood.com. And then I will definitely forward them on to Chris, and I might ask you to share them on our Facebook page as well. Sharita says she would love to see you paint the whole piece.
That will take a little bit of time. This one was a little more involved than some of the other pieces. I kind of got carried away.
She might do snippets of it.
Yeah.
But it would take a long time to paint this piece. There's a lot of characters on it.
Well, I don't know. The mummy, well, you think a half an hour for each figure.
I mean, you could break it down.
It wouldn't be too bad. And one thing about when you do monsters, if the eyes here and the eyes here, it's okay.
They're monsters.
Sometimes that adds to their personality.
Like Frankenstein, he's pieced together, so
yeah,
he's not supposed to be.
Has some stitches and whatnot. So if you like what you're seeing, be sure to give us a thumbs up. We love to hear from you. Be sure to check out the other videos on Create with Chris. Last week I released reindeer treats. You want to flip back down here, Lindsay? I think,
You need to zoom out just a bit. It's a little
Okay.
bit bigger on the screen.
Okay. Let me move this over. This is Reindeer Treats was released last week. There's a video online, Create with Chris, kind of walks you through how to create it. Super fun piece if you're looking for a project that is quick and easy to do, but just adorable. It makes a great gift. If you want to pick up some of the surfaces, it's also a fun piece for if you have grandkids, nieces, nephews, you just want to do a little painting party. It's having the individual pieces makes it really easy to create. And then I just created the autumn book stack. I kind of did a series on these book stack ornaments. And I've been having so much fun. I hadn't done one for fall yet. So, okay, I'm going to zoom in one more time here. This is what I just created for fall. And I believe the pattern's going to go online tomorrow.
We're going to say by Thursday.
Okay.
We're still catching up from the weekend, so.
Giving you a sneak peek, just finished. I did do a video on this. It's going to be up in next week.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Yeah. I did a short one on the turkey, so that will be available as well. So make sure you check it out. Autumn Book Stackers. So I'm always trying to get something new going on. And what else is going on, Lindsay? Tomorrow, Jen and Lindsay are doing...
We don't know.
Okay, semi-pro painting with Jen and Lindsay.
It'll be a surprise.
Yeah. They've been working really, really hard. We had a big sale over the weekend for the 4th of July, and they haven't had a minute to sit down. So everybody's been hustling around here 9 miles an hour. So they will be doing
It'll be a surprise. It'll be something cute.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Okay. Are we done with this?
Yep.
So, the mummy. Give it a try. I think you're going to have fun doing him. Do some crazy poses. I might do a whole mummy series. You know, mummy mash. Is that what you said? What did you say?
Moldy mummy.
Moldy mummies. Okay, there we go.
Linda's asked if they are on MDF. All of our wood is MDF. It's a very friendly wood to work with.
Okay, and I always seal it with a coat of multi-purpose sealer. Do you have to? I don't think so, but I always do it. It just takes a minute. That way I know everything's going to stick. My surface is going to be smooth. Number one, you just put the sealer on, let it dry, lightly sand it. Your paint's going to go on much, much smoother, much easier. Number two, it's not going to be as hard on your brushes, so your brushes are going to last longer as well. So multi-purpose sealer is such a great way to prep your projects and know with confidence that it's going to be much easier to paint. Your brushes are going to last longer.
Yeah. The key thing to remember about MDF is you do not sand it before you seal it. Do not sand it. You seal it, then you lightly sand.
It does have a smooth covering on it. So if you sand it, you're going to dig down. It's heat pressed. So if you dig down through that smooth finish seal, then it can start to puff up on you, which is, some people have bad memories of that. So don't let that deter you. All you need to do is put a good coat of multi-purpose sealer, fine sandpaper, super fine sandpaper, just a light buff.
It's a lot nicer because you don't have splinters. There's less prep to it.
No knots.
No knots, no voids. Nice, smooth finish edges. So yeah, if you haven't painted on MDF, give it a try.
Yeah, and if you don't want to paint the edges, you're always going to have this nice dark edge on it. Okay, I was looking to see if I had messy edges.
Yeah, don't look at me and Jen's edges because we're not there yet. Ours are always messy.
Paint from the center out, and you'll keep your edges nice and clean. Okay, I
think that's...
Are we good?
Yeah. So this will be, the replay will be available on our YouTube channel a little bit later. Well, actually it's on there now. It'll just be official a little bit later, and it's always available on our Facebook page too. And be sure to check out all of our videos on YouTube. There's I'm thinking pretty close to 100, if not over 100.
Be
By
sure
now.
to subscribe. That
Yeah.
way you won't miss out on upcoming videos because you get a little, they send a little thing that the videos are available. So you won't miss out.
Typically, it's 1 p.m. Eastern unless the weather throws something at us. So.
And we're in Ohio, so we get things thrown at us all the time.
So.
Anything
All right.
else?
No, I think that's it.
Thursday, semi-pro stenciling,
Mhm.
1 o'clock
1 Eastern.
with Jen.
And I know what we're doing, but I don't know what we're doing. It's on my desk.
Okay. Again, crazy week.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well, I hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July. Enjoy your summer days and keep those brushes moving. And remember, a little bit of paint makes a big difference. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next painting adventure. Bye-bye.